Welcome back. South Philly Sauce and Audacy Original, brought to you by 94 WIP and Jack Daniels, Ashlyn, Sullivan, Al Morganti. It has been a while since we have talked about some hockey, a lot going on. Of course, the NHL playoffs, the race for the Stanley Cup has been awesome to watch, really exciting hockey games, and a lot going on with the Flyers, or therefore maybe not so much, because they're still looking for a head coach. We know Sullivan made it to the New York Rangers. We expected that to happen, so that is one off the list of candidates we thought could be a consideration for the Flyers, and we're waiting to hear what happens. Al, it's not one of our main topics, but I did want to get your thought of, I think at least I'm getting a lot of questions of what's taking so long. And I think people assume because the Rangers job landed, everything else would fall into place quickly. But I also know a lot goes into coaches that are still playing in the playoffs right now. And I could see why you would want everything to settle up and then consider all your candidates.
Yeah, you've got some guys there, but plus you've got a guy that, if Rick Tocchet is the wild card, let's say, okay, the Anaheim gets their coach, Joel Quenneville, who that's kind of been rumored for a while. But you have to consider if somebody's your top choice and there's other jobs open, it's not like you're picking, it's like they're kind of selecting. So let's just assume Boston wants to talk to Tocchet. The Flyers want to talk to Tocchet. Oh, he's got to, he certainly has to, his agent's going to make him, I would think, go talk to everybody that's interested to see what's going on, what the best situation is, study up. So I think that's what's taking time. I think I'm questioning whether, when you look at Shaw, who more and more people are thinking, well, that'd be a pretty good option. He did a good job here, and maybe a bridge coach, maybe. But I think the other thing is what happens if you want to give other people opportunities to go somewhere else, like the Flyers let some skills coach go. They let the power play coach go. Those guys have chances to go, land somewhere else. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of in the mix too, I think, on what's going to go on. Because usually a coach comes in, he wants his own staff, so to speak, his own people, his own coaching systems to go in. But it's a kind of unique situation here. They have such a respected guy in Shaw. Who knows? It would be logical he'd be a really good candidate for whoever comes in here. So I think that's why it's taken so long. My complete assumption is that if Rick Tocchet's the guy, and I would think he's the guy, not just here, but a couple of places, that people will be saying, well, he's got to go here and there. Plus, I think he's going to show up on TNT Friday night and Saturday night. You look at what's going on there now. Those jobs are pretty sweet, especially if you're being paid by an NHL team in the meantime.
Yeah, pretty good.
Although he didn't get his contract renewed or whatever, but that can be a sweet job just to be a bridge to go somewhere else and then see what the landscape of coaching looks like. I think it's just a matter of. Personally, I just think it's a matter of, okay, 3 or 4 clubs are really interested in Tocchet. He's got to make a choice, to me, more than why is this thing taking so long. I don't think until that happens, I don't think you jump the gun and say, well, we thought we had a much better chance than the Penguins of him coming here than him going to Pittsburgh or whatever. I think you let it play out, because the strength of it is, and this is like, if nothing seems to work out anywhere, they've got a pretty good candidate already in place in Shaw. So they kind of have this insurance card. I don't know how much he likes being the insurance card, but they kind of do have an insurance card here. And there's no rush in what happens here. I think people said, oh, what about the draft? Well, what difference did it make? We're going to help in the lottery. By the way, did you watch the lottery show?
I need a textbook on how to watch that going forward. What the heck was that?
That lottery show was
painful.
It was the explanation. There was no easy way to explain what was going on. However, I kind of had a handle on it and thought, okay, they want to make this as exciting as possible. But there's no way, and I'm no TV director, obviously. Yes, but you can't come down to the final number coming up for the number 1 pick or the number 2 pick even, and be interviewing 3 kids from the draft while there's a lottery going on. It was pretty wild. And the Flyers, I know a lot of people thought this was a disaster. And it was as bad as it could get for the Flyers. They went from 4 to 6 and complete chaos when the Islanders got the number 1 pick and then Utah moved up. It was the worst case scenario. But this is a really center heavy draft. So I don't think it was as bad as some people said. What an awful night. I mean, there were other teams that, really got hammered, falling out of the top 7 or so. The real problem would have been if they had won that last game, then you might have been out of the situation where there were a lot of top centers that your centerman you could take coming out of the draft. That would have hurt a lot more. The way it lands right now, there's going to be teams that obviously take a defenseman first. But I mean, the Flyers should still be in a spot where whatever centerman's left, they should be able to get a quality guy. And none of these guys, maybe the top pick will play some next year, maybe. Otherwise, you're not going to see any of these guys for at least 2 years.
Right. It is just a really confusing process. And I walked away from that draft show saying, why can't we just have it where, hear me out, the worst team gets the first pick, the second worst team gets the second pick?
Because then you are going to have tanking.
It happens in the NFL. Well, so be it. And then it makes sense. What's going on?
Yeah, but what happens here is I don't see the point in tanking it because you might not get that number 1 pick if it's for like next year. There's a legit number 1. I mean, next year you're going to see a tankathon at the end for sure. That's going to happen. But otherwise, it's like for me, I've always thought I don't even want to. Just every team gets put in a hat and you pick it out, and that's the way you draft. If the best team gets it, so be it. It's like these teams swap people anyway, trade, whatever. It's like, okay, that way you don't. If you're really worried about tanking, that's the only way to really solve this thing. It's not going to happen. I just thought it's just you're asking people to become. I felt like I was in class and didn't do my homework. Like what's going on? Because the numbers I did all the prep work, looked at all the combinations, all the numbers. I'm like, okay, I'm going to be all right. Then it's like these 3 numbers come up. I'm like, but then the camera's not on it. And I'm like, well, what? Please do something that makes it, because the Flyers at the end, I mean, they had 2 numbers that could come up and they'd have the number 1 pick. 2. They were in good shape. They were like, and I love John Butchiegrass, but when the number comes up for the Islanders, I think it was 13. He goes, oh, I'm like, well, what happened? It was so, and then the Islanders, of all things for the league to happen, the Islanders get the number 1 pick. They don't have a GM right now, so they go to Ken Murrow, who won the gold medal back in 1980, one of their elder statesmen, so to speak, to come in and talk about it. So overall, it was not a good night, I didn't think, for the NHL, especially for the Flyers, because they were so close, I thought, to getting that top pick.
With this draft positioning, we're going to talk about it going a lot forward, because I think it so depicts the Flyers season of you end up the 4th worst team and somehow, some way end up with the 6th draft pick. It's just been unlucky a bit. And I think that definitely is with Matvei Michkov, who ends up not even being a finalist for Rookie of the Year. And I understand why he didn't win. There were a lot of good candidates. You can make the argument for that. But to not be a finalist is insane.
Yeah, I mean, you looked at it going in, and it's like he scored that, got the top goal scorer. You'd think, okay, automatically you're in there. But man, there's no way anybody's beating Lane Hudson. I mean, that's just a given. Celebrini played a lot of minutes if you watched it from the beginning, and don't forget, I mean, the voting goes, coast to coast, if you will. I had a hard time having an issue with that. Now, the other question was, this is really an interesting one. The goalie, Dustin Wolf in Calgary, they don't make it to the end either. They don't, make it into the carnival, the tourney. But they had no chance without him. None. Yeah. 0. I have a hard time quibbling with, where he landed in this thing. I just think it was such a strong group. And I think what happens, the best that will happen out of this is eventually say, you see, he was the best, whatever. And I guess the people who want to blame Torts would say, well, if he got more ice time, he would have been, he would have get 10 more goals, whatever you want to try to argue here. Or if their power play had been at least human, it would have been, he would have been so much better. And that's all true. But I don't think as a voter you can look at that and say that. I mean, it's you had the season that you had, you played as much as you did, and his long-term development might have been better for the way he was coached or handled through here. So I know people are going to say, how can he not? What, to me, all right, you didn't finish in the top. You're not going to win it. You're not going to win it. I mean, when you go to those award shows, I would, if you're the top three and you don't get it, it's like when you see the Heisman or whatever. Second place isn't really cool in this event here. It's like there's one guy getting it. So I think it's going to be. I really have a hard time being outraged by it. I think he's going to end up, when you look at all those guys, I think I just look at it like what a great class of rookies came up. And the bright side to me is he's a real competitive guy. You want to use something to kind of fuel the next year. I can't wait till he might try to light up Dustin Wolf for 5-6 goals when they play. And so that's
motivation.
It's sure. So, I mean, and every time now you've got a rivalry now with Montreal that was way better than before. So that's a really good thing. And obviously with Celebrini, those two teams out west, you won't see that much, but you got that great one there with Montreal.
Yeah, it's a lot of things to get behind, to use as momentum. That's for sure for this Flyers organization. And we don't know how many people have been paying attention to the Carter Hart trial that is going up in Canada. Truthfully, I've been a little surprised of the lack of media attention towards it. I thought it'd be a much bigger story here in Philadelphia. Maybe it's because it's been a bit since this has happened, since Carter Hart played for the Flyers. And this has been a very elongated process, but it is something we are certainly paying attention to. And you're hearing the trials, you're hearing all the evidence. And Al and I were talking, all we know is if we were on that jury, I don't know how they come to a resolution with this. And if that's the case, Carter Hart and the rest of these players become free agents where anyone can come pick them up. We know Carter Hart has been training still to be a goaltender. I'd be curious where his game's at in the mental of this year. But it's to the point where I don't know how they're going to find a solution for this.
Yeah, they've already had a mistrial. We get a new jury to come in. If people want to follow it, I mean, I'm with you. Like, who's covering it? Really, Athletic, New York Times. So, but if you really want to look at it, streaming type of thing, CBC, I think, is the best website for it. CBC.ca, to follow what's going on. It's a difficult trial it's very graphic. Yeah. I mean, it's really graphic. So warning there, it's a really graphic trial. And I knew that this was going to be a really difficult case, especially for the woman involved, because there's 5 different cases going on. So she has to answer to 5 different lawyers, basically. And it's a graphic trial, but, whatever, if the outcome is that they are available, free agents, if they decide that, as awful as it was, that the blame is not going to be on the players for something criminally. Mm-hmm. I mean, to me, Carter Hart, they're going to land somewhere. I mean, they're just. I don't see how you can just say we're going to. We had a jury of people decided that these guys can play again, or that they weren't at fault for this, at criminally at fault for this. So the question I get is there a chance Carter Hart will be the goaltender of the Flyers? And I used to think, I didn't think so because of ownership more than I thought about management or whatever.
You want that PR nightmare.
But I don't know. I think if they would have to look at what's going on, you look at the Ducks just hired Joe Quenneville from Chicago, with everything that went on with the Blackhawks there, and it was out for a long time. I think you have to really, their lawyers or whatever, or their people, quote people, really have to look at this and say, would it be fair if all this has gone down and you really have already had paid a price on what all of them have paid a price for what's gone on? I find it difficult to say that it would just be a complete no. It's not going to happen. And we've seen in Philadelphia where, Michael Vick came and played here. And I think I'm not so sure that couldn't be a possibility. Can't speak for, nobody can speak for what the ownership of the team will think going forward. but I think it's at least owed. See what went on here, what you think of the trial, what you think of the defendant in the trial, what went on, and what you know about your former player, what you know about his quote character from how you know him, what went on. Yeah. So I'm not. I mean, I don't think that it's a complete blank, like it can't happen anymore. Well, this, and we could be so far over our ski tips here because there's more trial left. So, one day something could happen where it's like everything changes 180 degrees.
Right. And that's why we've been talking about this for so long, thinking an answer's coming, we're going to know. And that's why it's hard to predict that we can even talk about this as a realistic option, because it's happened before where you've gotten this far, mistrial, whatever, and it takes another year. So to know when a final answer is coming, no one knows that. It's really unrealistic to think, oh, we're right, next week we're going to know. Not the case.
No, but you can follow it, and if you want. As I said, it's pretty graphic. And nobody can say that whatever happened here there wasn't a light shined on it, because everything that happened is right out there, and you can read it for yourself and decide what you think. If people like to play jury or whatever, I just know that it's really telling to me that so much. I find Hockey Canada really at fault for a lot of letting this thing get, trying to cover the players. Players didn't even know that there was a kind of an agreement reached. It was crazy to me that they were the last people to know what was going on here. So there's a lot to unpack in this trial, and a lot of blame to go around. Right.
Instead of the player being responsible for themselves, Hockey Canada taking not the blame, but trying to handle it. It seems like it'd be better where the players are representing themselves.
As usual, it's like whatever cover up they tried made it that much worse than what's going on.
Because now it's just confusing to everybody. Yes, and with that, so definitely, if you want to follow along, it's something that is worthy of making your own opinion about it for sure, because there are a lot of materials there and a lot of media platforms, especially up in Canada, to follow along. But with that, let's transition to the NHL playoffs, which have been just awesome. And Al and I were talking, I was reading an article, which was surprising to me, because I think this is the best playoffs I have watched since covering hockey. And I was reading an article where viewership is down 20% from last year, which is insane to me. But then you think of the teams that are in it, and it is late games. It's hard to stay up for, especially during the week. You do your best, but I could see why maybe the casual fan isn't as dialed in. But they have been awesome games down to the wire.
Yeah, they've been terrific games. And if you look at the teams, I mean, Winnipeg. Yeah, well, it's a nice story, but you live in the Northeast. Like, am I going to really get all cranked up about the Jets? It's just a great story, great games going on. Great
story for people that are really dialed into hockey, but the casual fans, why is this a great story?
Even late games. I mean, LA, Edmonton. That series, everything that went on there. The Dallas games have just been terrific, just absolutely terrific. It's a great watch. Every year I wonder, how does it not get better numbers? And a lot of it is teams involved. Edmonton, good as they are, it's Edmonton. Even McDavid and Draisaitl last night. I mean, I was up till what was it, 1:30, whatever time it was last night. When you have a situation where it's McDavid and Draisaitl, this is a great hockey game. Whereas Rantanen playing for Dallas, back-to-back hat tricks. Really great stuff going on. And it happens all the time. Good physical play, overtime. The best part, I love overtime because there's no breaks. There's no ads. It's like running. It just flies by. They have one stoppage. It's so crazy. It's like the oldest. They have all these rule changes in hockey that have gone on. And to me, the most important thing that's ever happened is when they stop halfway through a period and shovel the ice. The skaters come out there, ice girls, or the guys come out and shovel the ice to get it clean again. That's the only break in overtime. Before, you used to have like piles of snow pile up around the goalie. It was wild. But now they do that. It's the only break really in overtime. And it's been just crazy, crazy good hockey. So, I mean, if you can handle the hours on those West Coast things, it's fine. And the weekends, it's a little better. And then to top that all off, the TNT show especially is hilarious.
Oh my gosh,
It's so those guys are just great on what they do, almost as good as us on TV.
Close, but not quite. They're second to us. But I would say they are the best. They're the best sports studio programming, I think, on television. Because to me, when I watch, they're just guys that are fans. And I think they do a great job of, you could just be sitting at a sports bar and people are having that exact same conversation.
Oh yeah, Barkley comes over, Shaq comes in. It's just crazy. That's why, talk. That's why I say people think talk is going to be automatically. That's a pretty good.
It's a nice, cushy job there.
Pretty good gig to come and hang out with those guys for a little while. So, Biz is terrific. So it really is good TV to watch, and you're going to get a really good game. Having said that, the games in the East, Carolina is just not. To me, they don't have the pop of the watching Dallas or Colorado in the past, or Edmonton certainly.
They don't have the momentum, I think.
Yeah, but we'll see. Ovechkin going to Washington, they kind of get back in it. So there's a lot to love. As usual, there's a lot to love about the playoffs. And as much as people want, I want the Flyers to, quote, do the right thing and don't try to jump ahead 2 steps. Man, you watch this stuff, and this is why you understand why fans are like, just get there. Will you just get there? Because we got to have some of this. It's just too good. And not just the fans. The guy like Michkov, he's just, why can't I have this? Look at this. I mean, Ristolainen, although he had surgery, this guy's never been in the playoffs.
I know.
He's never been in the playoffs. It's like, then that's
33.
Yeah. It's like, God, it's a whole different, it's kicked it up to 2, 3 different levels going up. And I think that's understandably why fans are saying, just go do something, which is why, when you look at this draft, it's really important for the Flyers. To me, if you think your cupboard's loaded now, you go and get people. I don't think it's out of the question that you package some of your picks after that number, your top pick, and maybe bring somebody in here just to get a bridge, just to get things going here. We'll see what happens. It's going to be really interesting here.
It is definitely a lot of stuff to be excited for. And that is South Philly Sauce and Audacy Original, brought to you by 94 WIP and Jack Daniels. We'll see you next week.